back to Cellar Sleuths. I'm Bart, this is my daughter Katie. We've been doing videos recently about wine tasting because that's kind of where our wine classes have taken us. And students asked us to put together some wine videos so they could kind of review what we talked to them about over our classes. And so we recently did a wine video on kind of going through all of the elements you look at when you evaluate a wine, not only to decide if you like it, but also get a sense of what exactly is in your glass. What can you learn from what's in your glass? And you do have to follow a paradigm. We talked a little bit about the deductive tasting method from the Court of Master Sommeliers, and so we've kind of simplified it just to start so it's not so overwhelming.
So we thought we'd start today by walking you through a wine that's really popular, everyone knows about it. It's a good, easy one to start with, Chardonnay. White wines tend to be a little bit easier in their tasting profiles than red wines, so not quite as complicated. So we thought we'd start there. Everyone's had Chardonnay. Anywhere you go, you're gonna find Chardonnay. However, we wanted to make it a little bit more fun than just Chardonnay. So we have Chardonnay here. There's two Chardonnays, but Dad has a different Chardonnay in his glass than I do. One of us has a French Chardonnay. One of us has a California Chardonnay. My mom, she poured these for us, so we're not sure which is in which glass. We're gonna decide together which is which. But one of them is French, one of them is American. So that way we can go through what is Chardonnay, what are you finding in Chardonnay, but also what are the differences based on where this grape is grown, because you're gonna find that even though it's the same grape, depending on where it was grown, the climate it was grown in, and the winemaker's practices, it's gonna be similar but different. And so that's kind of the fun thing about wine. So we're gonna start with this. So grab any glass of Chardonnay if you have a Chardonnay at home. Go through this with us and then see at the end if you kind of are getting the same things we are and if you can figure out if your profile is fitting what we're thinking too. So grab a glass, doesn't matter what glass of Chardonnay, do this with us.
It may start off a little difficult, but it definitely gets easier as you go. Be as honest as you can with yourself and you'll learn faster.
Yep.
I guess we'll go down through the list we showed you yesterday.
Yep.
It's the white wine list from the Court of Master Sommeliers. We'll post one at the end. You can find them online. Just to plug the Court of Master Sommeliers, you should look into their online classes. For level 1, they have a wonderful materials provided that'll take you through the world of wine, give you a sense of what every grape is, all the winemaking techniques, the regions, and then what differences you'll find in the wine that'll help you isolate where this grape came from and what grape it is. They do a wonderful job. It's not that difficult. You'll put a couple months in it. There's lots of videos. So you got to look into that. Whether you're into, you don't have to become a sommelier. I guess you'll be a level 1 sommelier if you pass the test, but what you're really after is just level 1 education, which is wonderful in the world of wine.
So we're going to start with the first thing. Look at your wine. Look at your wine. It's nice, and so we'll start with mine. It's nice and clear. There's no sediment in there. There's no bubbles. Very clear. You can put it on a white background. You can see right through that. If there were words here, I could read them through there. And this one is pretty light. It's kind of a straw to slightly pushing towards yellow a little bit though. So it's a little, there's color there. Some white wines are almost clear. This one's definitely got a little yellow coloring.
Yeah, mine's a little lighter. I'd call it light straw.
Now we're gonna smell it. So let's put your nose in there, and you can kind of see mine. I'm about a couple inches away, and I can really smell it. I don't have to get my nose way in there. I can really start to get it here. So it's about a pretty medium aroma there. This one, I'm getting a lot of, I would say, if we're talking about fruit, starting with fruit, it's kind of apple, but it's like baked apple. You know, it's kind of like apple in a dumpling kind of, and there's also a little bit of pear in there, like a really ripe pear, like a pear that, not like it's just come up, but it's pretty ripe pear smell. There might be just a hint of that kind of Meyer lemon, not a tart lemon, but that kind of really lemon curd, or kind of lemon cream kind of thing almost. And then, so that's kind of my fruit. And I would say, we talk about what kind of fruit. Are we getting citrus in there? Maybe a little bit of lemon. Are we getting stone fruit? That's like peaches and things like that. I'm not really getting stone fruit or tropical fruit. It's much more apple, pear kind of, and that's pretty typical of Chardonnay. Chardonnay really leans towards the kind of apple pear kind of thing. And I would say, if we're saying the fruit condition, it definitely smells ripe, but this is ripe fruit. I wouldn't say jammy, but it's definitely ripe fruit or baked fruit almost. So that's kind of where I would go with the fruit condition on this one.
This one, I wouldn't have described it that way. This one it's crisp and clean. It's got light to moderate aromatics, but it's crisp and clean. It's got maybe a Granny Smith apple, but definitely pear. There's pear in here, but it's not a ripe or jammy pear. It's kind of like pears you may smell like in the grocery store. That could maybe take home and sit on the counter for a day or two, let them ripen up a little bit. So it's a little riper, a little less ripe than Katie described, and also a hint of lemon in there. When you think about citrus, there's a little bit of lemon in there, and this is maybe more like lemon juice kind of lemon. I don't get any tropical fruit.
So if we're going and following along the Court of Master Sommelier's grid, then you taste it and decide if your fruit matches what you said when I smell it. So if I taste this, yes, this definitely, there's a little bit of tartness there, but I would definitely say this is a riper fruit. It's ripe fruit, ripe apples, like those golden delicious apples. That's kind of where this feels like it's at.
Now this one, again, pears and lemons jump right out, but again, they're tartar, has a little bit of a pucker factor to it. So it's tartar, the acid is going to be a little higher. These are definitely less ripe than what you're describing.
So then, we move on, with your following this grid here, you move on to your non-fruit characteristics. So are you getting things like flowers? I would not say I'm really getting flowers in this glass of wine. So I would kind of say not flowers. There's not a lot of herby, herbal stuff like grass. Then it comes down to that green. Do you find, one of the things that asks you, do you find that green asparagus bell pepper quality? In Chardonnay, we should not find it. But you need to make sure. So if I was blind tasting this and I'm already thinking Chardonnay, well, I better make sure that I'm not picking up any asparagus or green bell pepper, or for me, it often comes across to me as celery. And I'm not getting any of that, because if I said I were, then I have to be really rethinking, is this Chardonnay? It shouldn't be. Then we're talking about a Sauvignon Blanc. But this one, no. I really don't pick that up at all. I'm not getting any of those green things. If we get, though, down to spices, I would say there's a little bit of like baking spice kind of here, kind of a little bit nutmeg. Kind of, again, it reminds me of like an apple pastry. So it's kind of that baking spice. So a little bit of baking spice in here, that kind of stuff. And are you looking for things like earth in here? There's not any earth in this. Is there any mineral? And that's that mineral we're talking about. Things like, are you walking on a gravel road and getting that mineral? Or are you down, getting chalk or graphite? Or are you at the base of a waterfall and you get that fun waterfall kind of wet rock smell? I really don't get a lot of mineral in this one. But then you get down to oak. Are you getting any vanilla, any toast, any dill, any coconut? And I would say there's a little oak. It's not overpowering by any means. Some red wines especially can be really oaky. But this one does have a little bit of that coconut, vanilla kind of thing, which makes me think this wine has been put into oak and at least spent a little bit of time in oak.
These wines really start to separate now. When I smell this, there's light flowers, white flowers, just a hint of it. It definitely has that aromatic note to it. There is no green in it. There's no real spices in it. Maybe a hint of something vegetal, maybe a little grass. But boy, it's hard to find it. I think what I'm really picking up is a mineral note. It's that wet rocks and a waterfall, and it's really just crisp and clean. You think about wood things like caramel and vanilla. It's just not there. This wine has not seen any wood, probably stainless steel. Crisp and clean, and note almost every marker other than a little bit of mineral, white flowers, and then no oak.
Yeah, no
which
oak.
is really start to tell you where this wine
So that kind of tells us. So we recap, or we can go down now. Are we getting any sweetness in this wine? So if you get down to kind of the bottom of this grid, it starts to ask you, is there any sweetness in this wine? Answer, no, my wine is dry.
This wine is
meaning
dry.
It's not sweet. No sweetness there.
This one's dry.
Acid level, we talked about putting it in your mouth, let it sit there, swallow it, and then tip your mouth down. You get a feeling like stuff's gonna drip out. It's, I would say, medium acidity. This is not a very high acidity wine, but it's not really low either. There's some stuff there. And then alcohol level. Alcohol, you can swirl it again and look at the legs. This has got some legs, and not crazy, but it's got some legs there. And then just, do you feel the heat there when you're swallowing it. You feel that heat of the alcohol. I would call this one probably medium, leaning towards medium plus, but not terribly high.
This wine is clearly dry. It has no phenolic bitterness in it. As far as acid, it's medium plus to high. I mean, I got to 1001 and I was already starting to salivate. So medium high. Alcohol, I would say medium minus to medium. It's not high. And you know, all those things start to tell you where they are, and we'll talk about that in just a minute.
So we just went through that whole thing with these wines. We knew ahead of time actually it was Chardonnay because we wanted you to know it was Chardonnay as we're walking through this. And they're both Chardonnay. And what was similar between them?
She picked them wisely. They are different regions.
They're different regions. The similarities between them, they have more apple, pear kind of fruit qualities. They don't have the green asparagus bell pepper of a Sauvignon Blanc. They're more complex than like a Pinot Grigio, which is just kind of like lemon and nothing. But there's more going on there. There's more of those apple pear fruits there. Those are the kind of things you pick up in
Citrus
Chardonnay.
And,
a little bit of citrus, a lot of apple pear. Those are the kind of things you pick up in Chardonnay. Now, what helps us decide where it comes from? California is warmer than France, or where most of the places they're growing these in France. California is going to tend to have warmer climates. They are going to have riper fruit, therefore there's going to be higher sugar, therefore higher alcohol. They tend to use oak in California as well, and so you're going to get a little more color, a little bit more color coming off the oak there. You're also going to get more of those oak flavors where I talked about kind of the baked fruit kind of quality that comes from just the fruit being riper too, but even the oak you get those baking spices, that kind of vanilla, coconut kind of stuff that was going on in here. Not as much mineral. All that tells me a little bit higher alcohol, again because it's warmer, the grapes get riper, there's more sugar, they get more alcohol. All that tells me this is probably, I'll be shocked if it's not the California Chardonnay.
Yeah, and this one, the color's a little lighter. You get a sense it wasn't quite as ripe. Maybe it's just a newer wine. I have no idea what the ages are on these wines. It's crisp, it's clean. Apple pear, again, classic elements you got to find in a Chardonnay. It doesn't have those other riper elements of some Chardonnays that are common to the U.S., as she mentioned. It has that mineral note, that little bit of white flowers, and no oak. Alcohol is low. Remember, the closer you are to the equator, the riper the grapes get, the more jammy they'll become. This one is not that, so it's a little further away. Lower sugar also means lower alcohol. This one's lower alcohol. I just barely feel a little heat in my chest and the back of my throat. So this is further away from the equator, not quite as ripe. Hasn't seen any oak. I bet this was in stainless steel. I can't find any oak in that at all, which you can find in California, but it's not the classic California Chardonnay.
Or French.
Yeah, well, you can find oak in California,
yes,
but you won't find it in French.
Generally.
And so I bet this is a French Chardonnay, probably a Chablis.
So this one, she set aside what she put in each glass. So this was Dad's Chablis, a 2023 Chablis. Fantastic, exactly what we're thinking there. And the other one is the Kendall Jackson 2023 Chardonnay from Monterey County, California. So there we go.
And those are pretty classic examples.
Pretty classic.
California is going to be richer and darker in color, jammier, have more higher alcohol, longer legs.
It's gonna be more buttery. Just you get that kind of coming out.
Yeah, you'll say stuff like cobbler and toast and apple pie and
California Chardonnay. The classic, well loved, is that it's buttery. So you have butternut and buttercream and butter, and they all name their.
Yeah, and it's creamy on the end. This wine was crisp and clean. I would not have said creamy, not even round on this one. I wouldn't even give it a round,
this
which
one's
is
more round. There's more body there because of the oak and just the higher alcohol content.
Sugar content. That's right. So you can tell them apart, or at least get close. Trust me, there are French-style Chardonnays in California and oak Chardonnays from France, so you can miss them, but you have to follow kind of the
generally
averages.
Speaking, this will get you on par. And then if you go to a restaurant and I like Chardonnay, gives you a better idea of I like French-style Chardonnay or I like American-style Chardonnay. So if you go order off a menu and you're just like, I want a Chardonnay, you know where you want to go because they're rather different.
It's not as hard as you think. It just takes a little work.
Takes a little time.
If you have any questions for us, any particular wines you want us to review blind or whatever, it's always kind of fun to put Katie to the test. But it's always fun. We learn something every day.
Yep.
So,
all right. Join us for our next wine.